Welcome everybody, Chef Viverito here, teaching you how to fabricate fish. Today we're going to do a steelhead trout. Steelhead trout is in the salmon and trout family. We know that because if we look at this fish, most fish have 5 sets of fins: pectoral, dorsal, pelvic, anal, and caudal. This guy got a 6th fin. It's called the adipose fin. It's fleshy or fatty. If you see a fin in this location between dorsal and tail and the fish had scales, you can pretty much bet a sum of money on it that it was a salmon or a trout. This one's steelhead trout. A very steely, silvery head, dark spots on a light body. The lateral line can be orangish, yellowish, kind of pale red here. And we notice the fish has red flesh. That is based on its diet. When this fish swims out to the ocean after it's a juvenile, it eats krill. Krill being a filter feeder full of beta carotenoids, so it turns orange. To fabricate this, we'll do the straight cut technique, which is used on soft bone fish. So we're going to take back where the bolster of our knife is, put it behind the head, rotate it at about a 45-degree angle to the spine or lateral line, tuck it underneath the collarbone, so roughly a 22-degree angle. Handles against the head, and I'm going to draw the knife up into the head, and the knife will come out and smack the table. I then want to rotate my blade upwards, put it in that hole, slice behind the pectoral fin, and release the collarbone from the fillet. Now put my knife in there, rock it, and I can hear and feel the spine. Roll the knife over so it points towards the tail. With your 4 non-cutting fingers, lift the belly. Side 1, dorsal fin towards you, swimming towards your cutting hand. Side 1, lift with your 4 non-cutting fingers, angle the knife back slightly into the spine, and cut through the first few ribs. Just so you have enough room to switch to your chef knife. In the beginning, your chef knife will offer you ultimately more control than your fillet knife. Don't bend the fish, just wiggle it in there. You can notice the angle down, slightly into the spine. Draw the knife down, push it up, move your hand. Slicing, and each time moving your hand so you can keep the belly out of the way of the knife. You don't want to cut it off, and you want to be able to cut through the ribs, which you will see when I remove the fillet. The rib cage is gone here, they're left behind here. Self-assessment, I can see the dorsal bones and cartilage, can't get any closer. I see the spine the whole way, can't get any closer. Anal fin, more of the same. I'm going to take some paper towels and I'm going to gently wipe up any residual moisture and fish oil on this fish so it doesn't slide around. Gently roll the fish over. And side 2, I want it swimming to my cutting hand, to the right, because I'm right-handed, lefty, lefty. And I'm going to have the belly at the edge of the table. On side 2, I'm going to start with the knife tip on the eyeball, come over the gill plate and collarbone, and I'm at a 45-degree angle roughly to the lateral line here, tuck under the collar, and I'm going to push into the head, swing my knife around to release the fillet. Now my collarbone is separated. Once again, find your spine by rotating the knife. Roll it over, tip is towards the table. Dorsal dollars, very expensive. Tip towards the table gets you dorsal dollars. Lift the belly with your thumb on side 2 because this is uncomfortable. Keep it out of the way of the knife. Cut through the first few ribs until you have enough room for your chef knife. Remove it. Gently lift this up. Please don't bend this out of the head. Wiggle your knife in there. Tip towards the table. Side 2, I like to kind of point it towards the tail. That's the direction I'm going. Lifting my belly with my thumb. And I'm going to short slicing motions, slightly angled into the spine, moving with my knife, not letting it cross the center line of my body. I'll be able to release the whole fillet. Once again, I can see the whole spine. Your yield doesn't get any better than that. Then, I notice I have an anal fin here and a dorsal fin here. This is going to get in my way. You can take your knife, shave behind the anal fin, taking the bones with it, and remove it. And then, this fillet is swimming away from me. This is towards me because I like to cut towards myself for control. High to low, out to in. Put your knife flatly on the fish, flat. Push the belly up slightly. exposing the ribs. And you're going to release the ribs from the fillet cutting towards you. And then with your knife flat, slicing motion, you're scraping the ribs and removing them off of the fillet away from you. You want to keep that knife blade flat and pointed into the rib cage, because if it's not pointed into the rib cage, you run the risk of cutting into the flesh, which doesn't benefit anybody. On this fillet, same thing. Here we start from the back. Push the ribs up, release the ribs from the fillet towards me, remove the ribs from the fillet away from me, scraping the whole time for maximum yield. Once those are off, I'm going to swim this away from me and get the dorsal fin off. I got so close, the fin came off with the fillet, which I'd rather move the fin from the fillet than to leave flesh behind on the carcass. Now, the last step is these two fillets will swim towards me. This white line is from scraping the spine. The dorsal fin was up top. If I lightly rub backwards in between the spine and the dorsal fin, you'll notice little bones come up. These are called pin bones. You want to remove them only pulling in the direction of towards the head. They grow at this angle, so you'll have less resistance and less chance of gaping the flesh. If you gape the flesh while it's cold and raw, when it cooks, it's going to spread apart even more, thus causing a less than desirable presentation. Double check and keep feeling for bones. You can use tweezers, or you can use needle nose pliers like I like. Always pull the bones towards you. Double check. When you don't feel any, move to the other side. We're going to call this fillet, now that the bones are out, PBO, which the abbreviation is pin bone out. And if we leave them in, like on this side, right now this fillet is PBI. Those are two different market forms you can buy. PBI would be less expensive, but then you're responsible for pulling the pin bones out. Most people in this country are not fans of eating fish on the bones, and we don't want to freak them out, causing a choking hazard or any other liability. I'm a big believer that cooking fish on the bone gives you a higher moisture, better flavor, and a nicer structure, but you have to read the room and know who your audience is. Double check. If you feel any, remove them. Once those are done, safely clean them all up, make sure they're not on the fillet, get rid of them. I'm noticing one last thing on this side, is I still have a little bit of fat, cartilage, and bone. Once again, utilizing that outward to inward motion, I'm just going to shave this off. This is from getting such a good yield on the fillet, but like I said earlier, I would rather have to remove this from the fillet than to leave that flesh behind. So it's
I'll cut around that.
And here we have flesh to keep it from drying out, your steelhead trout fillet.